How's it going, peeps? Welcome back to Viva La Coin. I am Joe. I will be your host for today's episode. Unfortunately, I had already just worn my red Hawaiian shirt, or I would be wearing that to be in the spirit of all the red that we see in the charts right now. Now, before I come on here and say, oh my God, let's all panic and freak out, or I have no idea what's going on, I just want to reassure people with a sense of calm, at least the ones that I've been talking to on a day-to-day basis that know me personally. I told everyone. First of all, if I thought that this was the end of the bull run or if there was any critical, complete issues where everything would implode and lose all of its value, I would be the first one to come on here unbiasedly and say, hey, I think it's time to exit. And ultimately, I haven't done that. And I personally haven't changed my positions and everything because when it comes to technical analysis and when it comes to trying to figure out what the market is going to do, there's a certain point where technical analysis and fundamental analysis and everything goes out the window on the day-to-day price when the market is being manipulated. Now I'm going to go into that in a little bit more depth. Some of the numbers that we're seeing, some of the news and the FUD that's coming out, that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, where it's coming from, when it has occurred in the past, and what some of the accumulation and dumping patterns over the past couple months have really culminated to. Now, of course, this is always an evolving space, and there is a reason why I don't come on here and give price predictions. I said from day one, even when I did my What is Bitcoin video, what a fucking asshole would I look like if I was sitting in here and saying, oh, by this date, the price will equal this, or by that date, the price will equal that. Nobody knows. All we do know is in the overall grand scheme of things, when it comes to the stock to flow model, the importance of supply and demand and scarcity, what direction this is going to head. But the interim to get there, that is really unforeseen. And no market on earth, I don't care what you were in, is everyone profitable. Every time someone makes money, someone has to lose money. And this market will shake you out as hard as you could ever imagine. And if anyone's sitting there watching this and saying, oh, I'm down X amount, I can promise you, so am I. But then again, I'm only down if I sold. And I had a couple people reach out to me during that first 30K big crash down that a lot of people didn't anticipate. And they sold around the 31K mark or somewhere in between there. A couple other people were saying, hey, I panic pulled at this point or that point. And then there were plenty of people I talked to on Twitter that sold, bought back in at 40, and then just sold again. So as I break this stuff down, hopefully it brings to light a little bit of what is going on behind the scenes on a global stage. But before I do, the last point I'm going to make is if you are in this market and you do not understand what you are investing in, let's say you just watched one of my videos or you shot me a quick message and you dumped your money into Bitcoin or Ethereum at a certain price. If you don't understand why these things are so valuable, then you're not going to have the conviction and the understanding to also ride out these volatility waves that we're seeing come through. Now, yes, there are people that bought towards 60K and 40K and everywhere in between, and I was still accumulating as well. That doesn't mean that, oh, now it's worthless because it's less. As long as we continue to follow those models, then we will get back to that point. But if I sold everything at 30K because I panicked, then yes, I did undercut myself. And if the number that we're heading towards is the same at the end of this, then the day-to-day doesn't weigh on you as much. So I just wanted to make that point before we got started here, and we're just going to jump in. I'm not going to go into any one specific crypto outside of Bitcoin. I'm not going to do any other price analysis or, hey, what did I buy during the dip? This is just going to be about overall concept of what I believe is going on in the market. And keep in mind, and I say this all the time as well, not only do I not give price predictions, but ultimately, I am not a financial advisor, I'm not an oracle, nor am I a fucking wizard. All I can do is go based on historical data and everything that we know and track within this market to make the best decisions based on probabilities. So just keep those things in mind as we go through everything. So right now, Bitcoin is sitting right around 37.2K, which still is a level that more people are comfortable with than the $30,000 that we wicked down to earlier in the week. Now, I'm going to show two things specifically. One, earlier today, we were still climbing up around $41,000, and this is the minute chart. And I don't really advise people to sit there and just stare at the minute charts to figure out what's going on, but we already had that massive shakeout. And I've been talking about manipulation for a long time. And I didn't really have the exact pattern down. All I could say is the market's being manipulated. But then again, all markets are manipulated. That just comes with being a fair and open market. What doesn't come with it is they can't make more Bitcoin and they can't stop you from acquiring it if you buy it at whatever level. So it's being manipulated because they want to shake people out or liquidate people and they want to get more of it. But even on the minute, as we were pushing right up around 41, just minute after minute, tanked completely, straight down around like 38K. At that point, some of that was liquidations of people that thought, oh, here we go, we're going to recover. And I actually sent out a tweet specifically where I told people we recovered too quick. And based on the pattern that just unfolded over the last 3 months, I don't think that we're done dumping yet. But people jump back in because they're greedy or they lost money and they're trying to win it back and leverage. And they liquidated themselves again and lost even more. And then all of this stuff afterward is just retail, just slowly panicking and pulling out their positions, most of which are at a loss. Most wallets that entered the space in the last 60 to 90 days, they're all at a loss right now. So those people are trying to cut and run and lower that down. And anyone that panicked and did that back when it dropped to 30K, then you were already well in the red there because you pulled it. Now, I'm going to see if I can pull this over real quick just to show not so much on the minute, but let's go to like half hour. So this was that 30K drop down. And when we got all the way down to 30K, every single exchange crashed. It's kind of like if you had a house party and you invited every single person in the neighborhood to come over to your house and you asked everyone, hey, come on in, we're going to start playing drinking games or I'm going to make dinner, but everyone had to walk through the front door at the same time. Your door would break or people would trample each other. So the same thing happens with those exchanges. So every single person that is trying to buy or sell is going to run and log into their account and put in buy orders or sell orders, and every system is going to crash. That infrastructure cannot handle it. Now, these large institutions, they do over-the-counter buys. So it doesn't matter if shit goes, completely sideways. They can still fill their orders, and within a matter of about an hour, we were fully recovered all the way back up to 37K from that bottom of 30. And then we pushed right back up to 40, which I believe was a bull trap, essentially get people excited or say, hey, that was the shakeout or the floor. And then here we go, liquidating everyone again. Now, myself, what I thought was going to happen, and I was incorrect, but then again, everyone was, is that we were going to drop down and just tap off the 200-day moving average, which if we go to the daily, that is where we usually catch ourselves up. And we're still hovering along that line right now. That's that purple line, 200-day moving average. We haven't gone completely below it yet. But in that moment, we did wick way, way below it. And we were able to recover. Now, that 200-day moving average was a lot of people's heavy level of support. That's where we thought, okay, this is where it's going to bounce. Not necessarily tank well below or stay below. So that's still, it wasn't horribly incorrect. I just don't think people anticipated it was going to wick down that far. So then you ask yourself, well, when it did dive that far, why was it that so intense? We know it's coordinated manipulation with all that other bullshit news and fake garbage coming out. But there was actually a pattern that some people were talking about for a while now. And I wanted to bring that up. A guy, his channel, I'll link the video down below. I shared this with some people and it was incredibly insightful. But found out that over the last 3 months, they were rolling out something known as a Wyckoff distribution model, which essentially just helps to drive the price up and then exhaust both the sellers and the buyers in every single direction to test the amount of demand to get as many people loaded up as possible and then tank it. And it followed it to a T. It was actually masterfully pulled off. And although I'm not a fan of the big institutions or whales behind it that were able to pull it off, you can't knock it. They may be greedy, but they are not stupid. And they eliminated a lot of people. Now, luckily, I didn't lose anything. And anyone that talked to me that didn't panic sell at 30, they still have their full position. It's just worth less because the markets are down at the moment. But if you did try and leverage up or trade or you panic sold, now your position is compromised. And if you did buy back in, then you have less. So just things to keep in mind. But watch that video after mine if you have a chance. It's incredibly interesting. But when we go back and look at some of the previous cycles, so back in 2013, we actually had this double top where we came up and actually had a very significant crash and timed out for a bit. And there was a period of consolidation and reaccumulation until we went back up and pressed up to new all-time highs. Now, a lot of people have alluded to the fact that this cycle reminded them more of the 2013 cycle than the 2017. And although hindsight is 2020, right now, in the way that we just broke down, I think that that may be more along the lines that we are following. Now, that still doesn't mean that the market's going full on 4-year bear mode, but I think that we will be lower for maybe a couple months in order to allow that reaccumulation to occur. Because if you are those big institutions, which they are institutions, this was coordinated and billions of dollars flowed in, and $250 billion bought up that dip from 30 up to 37 in the matter of 30 minutes. It was coordinated. So now, in order for them to essentially get the biggest bang for their buck, you would need some reaccumulation. Now, I do think that they're going to pull this up and down as heavy as they can and liquidate as many longs and shorts or anyone that thinks they know what's going on in the market until whatever happens next occurs. I can't see the future. However, it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to destroy their positions entirely by just tanking the market down to zero. Now, for me, you had people pointing out, well, maybe it was the U.S. news that came out yesterday about stricter compliance with the IRS. And what they came out with, and this was Janet Yellen, the Treasury Department announced that it will require any transfer worth $10,000 or more to be reported to the IRS. Well, the average person isn't going to be making $10,000 transactions. It's either going to be people with a significant amount of crypto or it's going to be institutions. And I'm someone that believes that regulation isn't a bad thing. In fact, this brings more validity to the fact that they see this as an asset and not something that needs to be illegal or they're not going to recognize your ownership of. This is them preparing to get their fucking taxes from a globally recognized asset. So I see this as potentially good news in the long term in their validation. But you had people saying, oh, okay, well, that was the news. But the big thing that really pressed everything down, beyond what I talked about with Elon, beyond what I talked about with everything else, is China. Now, China, I've covered different stories about their mining or hash rate and stuff in the past. They do have a considerable amount of the hash rate mining power for Bitcoin. Now, that is slowly being redistributed around the world, but a lot of people look at China saying, well, if they want to tank it, they can tank it or do whatever they want. So for them, they came out and they decided to say, hey, we're going to ban cryptocurrency again. And at this point, we're all the way down. If you look at the fear and greed index, which is sort of deciding on whether or not we're overbought, we're too euphoric, it's too much. We are now at extreme lows. This is the lowest we are on the fear index since March of 2020, when we had that black swan event during the start of the pandemic, where everyone, if there was ever a moment where you would look in the mirror and say, yep, cryptocurrency is done, it cannot handle the volatility of a world cataclysmic event, shutting down economies or destroying anything, didn't stop it at all. Didn't slow down the bull run, didn't fuck with anything there. And that gave a lot of people that moment of validation personally that cryptocurrency isn't going anywhere and it could weather the storm, because a bunch of experts would say, oh, yeah, Bitcoin's all well and good because our economy's been great, which it hasn't by, correct metrics. But we'll see how it does in a period of tumultuous economic standing. Well, it did phenomenally. It outperformed everything. So a lot of people were saying, fuck, well, okay, it's not going anywhere. So now the banks and institutions and governments and everyone that wasn't in or wasn't in as much as they wanted to be decided, okay, we need to accumulate more. And my guess is when they started setting up that Wyckoff distribution measure to dump that, they were probably accumulating all throughout the fucking fall and winter to prepare to execute that. Now, for China coming out today, so China bans financial payment from institutions, from cryptocurrencies with business. Now, I covered this in these goddamn advertisements. So I covered this last video. And I was talking about it and I said, oh, China has done this before. This is something where if you were even in the last bull run, you didn't have to be here for the 2013 run. You would have still seen this throughout 2017. Right in the middle of the year, China banned it. I think it was around August 2017. Crypto took a massive dive. Everyone said, well, that's the end of Bitcoin or that's the end of the run. And then nothing became of it because they've been saying the same shit since 2013. And no country that wants to have omnipotent, unending power like authoritarian China is going to then also have a significant portion of the benefits of Bitcoin by having a lot of the hash rate and mining. It is going to outright ban it to then benefit other countries to continue to print their fiat that is failing. So I went back and I was digging up articles that was covering stuff. So in 2013, China's central bank barred financial institutions from handling Bitcoin transactions, according to the notice from China Securities Regulatory Commission. I actually pulled this up and I went to the translated version of it back when they released it. But this was from December 3rd, 2013. Recently, a so-called Bitcoin circulated by a specific computer program has attracted widespread attention internationally. There are also some domestic institutions and individuals taking the opportunity to hype Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related products. They went into breaking down what the reasons were for doing this. So Bitcoin has four main characteristics: no centralized user, limited total amount, unrestricted use by region, and anonymity. Although Bitcoin is called a quote-unquote currency because it is not issued by the monetary authority, it has no monetary properties such as legal compensation and compulsion. So it is not a currency in its true sense. In terms of nature, Bitcoin should be a specific virtual commodity which does not have the same legal status as currency and cannot and should not be used as a currency in the market. So this was from 2013. China hasn't changed their stance at all based on the news that they will continue to put out and recirculate. Now, as we're digging further into this, let's take a look at what they said back in 2013 as well. So December 5th, 2013. China moved on Thursday to restrict banks from using Bitcoin as currency, citing concerns about money laundering and a threat to financial stability, which is almost laughably ironic if you understand the amount of just billions of dollars of just US dollar currency is laundered, let alone the complete instability of our current market. That everyone's recognizing with inflation and with the bond yields increasing and the stock market being in trouble and housing being through the roof and we can't get employment back because you can't pay people a living wage. But that's a topic for a different video. So they've been talking about this for a long time, and that was 2 bull runs ago, that little blip right there. So then we start looking at what else is coming out. And this was today, and this is what everyone was fucking panicking over. Bitcoin price falls after China calls for crackdown on Bitcoin mining and trading behavior. So they came out and, this same reiterated bullshit. So Chinese Vice Premier Liu He in the State Council said in a statement, tighter regulation is needed to protect the financial system. So it's all about protecting you, right? It is necessary to maintain the smooth operation of stock, debt, and foreign markets, severely crack down on illegal security activities, and severely punish illegal financial activities. So good job. They're looking out for you, even though they're not. And this isn't a new statement. What this is saying is the same shit. This is an article that came out in 2019. China intensifies crackdown on Bitcoin mining. Again, so governments of China seem to just be reiterating the same stories over and over again about mining and, it's electricity or, it disrupts the social norm or whatever narrative they have. It's always timed right around the middle of the bull cycle, and it always just breaks momentum. Now, we were significantly overheated on the stock to flow model, which is what Plan B put together on Twitter that has been tracking it every day accurately since he put that out a couple years ago. But still, when these stories come out, everyone that's new into the market that doesn't have the conviction of understanding what Bitcoin is, they see it as just something that is worth more US dollars when really it is a hedge against a declining US dollar that you can't make more of. You can't manipulate it in the sense of they can't go and print more Bitcoin. That is true manipulation. Driving the price up or down, that is just a fair and open market that you can't really knock if they're going to press it, because people that are selling, they're selling based on their own choices, regardless of the misinformation. It's all about market psychology at that point. And then at the same time, FX Hedge, which is basically just a cancerous Twitter that puts out fucking misleading, clickbaity blippets of news with sources that are literally cited as source. Chinese crypto whale selling more than 200,000 Bitcoins. And I couldn't find the other tweet where someone actually went in and looked at all the wallets that this person could possibly be referring to. And it's just not the case. In fact, those largest wallets that are based in or around China, they're accumulating Bitcoin. They're not selling. Some of the other large wallets, of course, they're selling and taking some profit and pressing this down and buying it back up, because they'll short it into the ground and make money while you panic sell, and then they'll buy what you panic sell and make more money on the way back up. But there was another tweet that I wanted to share, and I got to find it. Let me see. Let me go to my account. When we're talking about the way that this is manipulated and broken down, and one, we are our own worst enemies, because we are just liquidating ourselves left and right, because people jump back in and continue to manipulate the market. Now, I did say 2 days ago, we bounced very quickly, so I believe we'll see a heavy bull trap again before we fully consolidate and press to new all-time highs, possibly towards July. Maybe that's a little premature. It might be August. None of this stuff is surprising to me. But what I wanted to point out is even Bloomberg Crypto, which is supposed to be unbiased and just putting out correct information, they put out the same story a couple hours apart. So this one was posted 12 p.m. today. Bitcoin's collapse, which it's not a collapse, undermines belief in digital currency as a rival to gold. So, okay, everyone saw that, but earlier today at 5:42, Bitcoin's collapse undermines, like you're just repeating the same garbage stories over and over again to get in front of as many people as possible to drive that fear into the market. Now, the second part of this is, I think, look, if you drive it all the way down to 30K, most of the big institutions or the heavy money bought at 30K, and we had that massive recovery around that line where everyone drove it back up. So they're not going to want to go immediately into the negatives, but everyone else, based on their technical analysis or just looking at the charts, are saying, nope, we're going into a bear market. It's completely over. 4 years of nothing. So they're leveraging up their shorts. And if we look historically at what happens in these market cycles, there's someone in my Telegram group, because we were breaking all this information down, and I posted about this a little bit earlier too, but he's right on the money. When we look at the previous cycles, so in 2011, so 9 months after previous all-time high, there was a bear trap in month 6. So 2013, 9 months after an all-time high, bear trap in month 5. 2017, 9 months, and then bear trap month 6, and we are currently in month 6 right now. So we're right around that same level where there's a ton of fear, a bunch of people that are over leveraged, that think it's just going to the moon, that don't understand the manipulation going on behind it. They got liquidated. Now everyone thinks, oh, the run's over, it's the bear market, and they're leveraged up to short it. So I think that we could see them be liquidated as well. In my personal opinion, I'm going to stay kind of neutral. I'm going to look right in the middle and say, I am going to not panic sell, and I'm not going to, as we go back up, say, we're at 42K, now let's go ahead and trade nothing but upward and we can only go up. I'm just sitting on my positions at the moment, and I have received no real damage as everything recovers, whether it is this month, next month, or the following month, or just over the course of the rest of the year. Because if you're going to a specific end goal, which these institutions are not doing all this manipulation and laying out all the groundwork, and all the banks are applying for ETFs, and all these billions of dollars are flying in for this just to disappear. It's not going to. So if we know where we're heading regardless, then in the moments where we have to show some conviction behind the choices and the decisions that we made and the investments and where we put them, then that is where you look at everything, you go, it's going down, and I stand up, I sit on my hands, and I just respond to people that are more worried than I am. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely. I'm not saying that I know everything, and I'm not pretending to, but what I will say is I believe that this is fully manipulated. And I've said that for a long time. And now in full display, we can see that. So does that change the fundamentals of Bitcoin or the scarcity or the permissionless nature of blockchain? No, it doesn't. Does that change the overall outlook of those other institutions or governments trying to get in to lay out a global infrastructure with it? No, it doesn't. So nothing has changed in my perspective as far as the future value of where we're heading with these assets. The only people that panicked or got wiped were people that were over leveraged or people that were invested and are not understanding what they're investing in or follow up any other content. They just put it in. They're like, well, everyone else will deal with it. And then, they don't watch anything else. I had a couple other people reach out to me. They were like, hey, what's going on? And this was around, I think, one dump ago, like from 46 down to 42. When I was talking about it, I was like, I covered that in my video. I talked about it. And people just sort of put it out of sight, out of mind until it's time to react, right? React as a herd to the psychology of the market. And I try and think a little bit more, not so much counterintuitively, but I want to know all the information before I make a decision. And right now, I'm just going to sit in this holding pattern and watch as the big players behind the scenes scramble to try and destroy as many retail lives as they possibly can to just get a little bit of enough to still cling on to power as this new system continues to absorb the old one. But aside from that, I'm open to any questions, opinions, comments, whatever you want to drop down in the comment section below. Please share this to anyone that may be having a hard time or, doesn't really know what's going on. I think that maybe, even though it's just my perspective of everything going on, trying to be as middle of the road or unbiased as I can be based on the information, I think it helps to get the full narrative, because if you turn on CNBC, JP Morgan told everyone that all of their clients sold all their Bitcoin and moved into gold, which unfortunately blockchain is fully transparent and we understand that the accumulation is still occurring. So fuck them. Aside from that, I am honored as always that you came and joined me on this episode of Viva La Coin. Hang tight and I will catch you guys next time.